Hello everyone, today we are here to review Andre Ovredal's Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, which have been adapted from the 1990s books. If any of you are 90s kids, you remember these and you also turn those around.
They have the old school ones like this, and then they have the ones from the movie.
Yeah, and these illustrations from Stephen Gammell are completely worth having. It might just be nostalgia, although I will say the movie, for about 4 out of the 5 things, did absolutely fantastic renditions where it was surrealist and just completely out there trying to make it look like the illustrations.
I thought that they did a really good job with the aesthetic of the movie.
Oh yeah, definitely. And as far as the overall movie, we're going to be trying to keep some of the spoilers out, but we are going to have to talk a little bit about some linking things they did to make it so that it fits. Because this movie isn't exactly vignettes where it's just mini story, mini story, mini story, mini story.
Mm-hmm.
There is an overarching thing. I wasn't sure going into this if we were going to be getting the same group of kids or if it was going to just cut to a different group, cut to a different group, cut to a different group. There is a big overarching story here.
Which I didn't do any research about this movie at all. I didn't even watch his trailer or anything. I was like, oh, I remember those books from when we were a kid. Let's go see the movie. So I had no idea what to expect. Yeah,
I saw a trailer. I saw the 30-second teaser or something and I was sold. So I didn't go any further than that. That one just showed the girl at the end of the hallway, and it showed the spider bite one.
See, I didn't know what stories they were going to pick. If I'm being completely honest, I remember these books. I remember the pictures and all that stuff. I don't really remember any of the stories. I remember the spider story.
Yeah.
Because I feel like that stuck out, which is...
They're also, a lot shorter than you would remember. They're, maybe 2 paragraphs for some of these stories, and some are, maybe 2 or 3 pages. Harold, which is actually the first of the supernatural stories we see, is the longest out of all of these, and it's quite a few pages.
Well, and I guess we don't need to talk about, do we want to say what stories are in the... Well, a lot of the stories are not the same, either.
Yeah, it's inspired by. It's not exactly a storytelling.
This is the one that I remember.
Yeah, that's Ruth, which in the movie, she's a younger, blonder woman. It's
look at how short this is. This is all of the story right here.
Yeah. And really, it's not a problem at all for me. I think that they did a great job of actually making this adaptation work. This feels like young adult horror to me. They pushed the limits of PG-13. They definitely did. It was funny, at the beginning of the movie, she saw a Richard Nixon thing that had swastikas. She's like, is this PG-13? I didn't think you could have swastikas. And then surprised. Later, it's some pretty brutal violence.
And language, yeah. I was surprised
You're allowed that one shit, which the cop uses.
That was funny. That was the one part that actually was, which I'm so glad they sprinkled it in. I love when horror movies make a genuine laugh. Doesn't happen very often when they do it well, and this was definitely well done.
Yeah, it's whenever you try to walk the line between horror and comedy, a lot of times you end up getting a Tucker and Dale vs. Evil where it's so comedic that it's not scary. But you need those moments of just silliness occasionally to break things up.
Yeah, and I thought that was really genuine.
Yeah, I thought that's what a cop would do in that situation.
Yeah, definitely. I was very surprised. I was a little bit worried about the PG-13, but it made sense because these are children's books. This is meant to be read to children or told to children or have them read it. I wonder, ages 8 to 12.
Yeah.
It has it exactly back here, which makes sense for a PG-13 movie.
Yeah, I would say that as far as the age group for when you would want to take a kid to this, probably not before 8. You might actually get them some good nightmares. I would have been fine because I was watching Alien at 6 and I'm stupid.
Well, and you didn't have a childhood. We've talked about this many times.
Well, that's because I was watching R-rated movies when I was 6.
But my sister today came by and she was like, oh, I think I'm going to take my niece to this. And I was like, well, let me see. But granted, they've definitely showed her and she's watched things that they deem necessary, and I'm not so sure. That's parenting.
Yeah.
I'm not her parent,
they probably
whatever.
Have her watching Marilyn Manson videos from the 90s all the time.
Yeah, but this, I think, would scare some kids.
It would scare a lot of kids. I don't think it would scare her. From the few times I've hung out with her, she's a little tougher.
I think it would give her nightmares, legitimately.
If I showed this to my
niece... The spiders would give nightmares.
The spiders weren't very good, though. The CGI. The makeup
kids
effects.
Don't care about that. Yeah. We care about that, but kids don't.
That was the only part, by the way, that I actually felt didn't have, like, great effects, was the spider stuff. All the practical effects leading up to that were great.
Were really good.
And, like, even whenever it's just, like, the leg and you see this in the trailer and on the poster, they did great with that. But then it's just a little bit too much, and they didn't spend quite enough money to make it real. But it's also, that's an uncanny valley thing where it's hard to make it look like that. I wish they'd have gone arachnophobia with it and just covered that girl in, like, real spiders. But that's just what they did in the 90s, and it's not what they do today anymore. Unfortunately.
Well, they didn't actually show her body having a lot of spiders on it. They showed a lot of spiders, like, which was maybe a clever way of getting around that, the CGI of it having on her. I didn't think the rest of the CGI bothered me.
No. And it's not very heavy on CGI
no,
either.
It's
not. Like the Jangly Man has some, which I know you're not a big fan of, like, contortion type stuff.
It just doesn't... it scared me in the second Silent 2 game. And since then, I don't think anything has even come close.
Yeah. But, like,
it's just kind of corny to me.
I think that the combination, what they did with that character was mostly to get things moving, to get the pace picked up, and actually have a character that was kind of more menacing and direct. And I think that actually... Yeah, that actually worked pretty well. However, compared to the scene that's in the hospital with one of the...
that one scared the... that was legitimately scary. Like, I was really tense because I always try to put myself into the shoes of that person, and to be stuck into this would be scary. They have this illustration. It's definitely not the story.
Yeah.
But they have this illustration in the movie. And
they nailed it.
Nailed it.
Like, absolutely
scary.
One of the most menacing, like, weirdest looking smiling things I've ever seen.
And she was, like, laughing, but not in, like, a maniacal type of way, but, like, kind of, like, in a motherly way.
Yeah.
And it was scary.
Yeah, it was scary. Actually creepy, which I didn't expect that to, like, actually get a little creeped out. I think it's like what you were saying, where it was just the tension was high. It reminded me of whenever I was younger and watching some of the, like, Freddy Krueger stuff where you're, like, caught in a dream because the lights keep changing and everything gets so surreal. And they did such a fantastic job with her, and they gave 400-pound women something to cosplay.
They did, and a scary cosplay, and just, and at first... I was a little concerned because when they do the pan up of her, you're like, ooh. But the more that it sits, the more unsettling it gets. I think that scene stole it for me.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, I'm sold. They did a great job at this.
And it's like, the big toe scene was good, but it wasn't as completely chilling as what is that story called? What was that one called?
It's called My Big Toe.
No, the one with the big lady.
Oh, the big toe, the lady was a dream.
Yeah, and that one definitely was the best sequence of the movie. I think people are going to be talking about that for a while. And it's just so faithful. And the big toe thing was interesting, and it was a good way to kind of do that with a character that was, like, the skeptic.
Yeah.
But, like, it just wasn't as scary to me as some of the other stuff.
I will
say it was a cool zombie.
That zombie was, like, one of the best zombies that I've seen in movies.
Yeah, and so basically the thing we're covering more than anything else here is the creature effects. Great. Like, that's the thing I liked most. It's a movie that has Guillermo Del Toro's fingerprints all over it.
Yeah.
Like, I actually really like that you can tell that it's sort of... His flavor of horror is never, I'm going to gross you out to the point where you can't watch, but I will unnerve you.
Yeah.
And they had that here, and I think that's what makes this a good introductory horror movie for a lot of younger people.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is one that I could legit show to a 12-year-old and not have to worry about it. Like, we were talking about, like, 7-year-olds, maybe too much, but, like, someone who's, like, early teens and just starting to get a feel for scary stuff.
Yeah.
The deaths and things in this are violent enough that I think it leaves a mark. And that it just works.
A lot of it, like with the big woman, it's not a death. Nobody's getting killed. And I thought it was so funny. Did you catch the really bad voiceover?
Which one?
She's like in the house and she's screaming. She's like, "We know you didn't poison those kids and whatnot." It was like originally, it was like, "We know you didn't kill those kids." Yeah. But it was like really bad voiceovered, and just it was like a straight shot at her face, so you can clearly see her say "kill," and it said "poison" instead. It was just, I caught it.
It was probably one of those things where, like, if you say that, it's going to be rated R.
Yeah, so they had to change it, which I thought was
Daddy
really
MPAA doesn't want kids hearing the word kill.
Which has been around since 1922, by the way.
Yeah, we were looking at that logo, and we were like, how long has that been there?
That's a classic logo.
Because we've been talking about, like, just ratings, censorship, random stuff, and, like, just brought that up. I did not know the MPAA was around since then. I knew that they were around in, like, the times of Psycho and a bunch of other movies because they were trying to get stuff banned. And in 5 Facts, I cover a lot of different movies where they give something an X rating for a really weird reason. Like, there's a lot of that where it's like all of a sudden they cut 3 seconds off of one scene and it goes back to an R-rated thing.
Yeah.
Or even half seconds elsewhere. It's just about, like, lingering. They don't like it whenever it stays too long. But that's kind of a weird digression. This movie...
I was like, where are we going with this?
This movie does a very interesting, like, way of keeping it at that PG-13, but still making it violent. Like, especially the Harold stuff. Like, where...
Harold, and I'm trying to think, it wasn't, like, overly... I guess Harold was a little bit violent.
It was more like the actual end of that sequence that was like, oh, that would suck.
Yeah.
Like, and they did a good job with that monster, too. Like, the face looked incredible. Like, even the way he moved, it was just very much like... guy who's been on a post forever, can't move very well, just very, like, robotic and shaky.
Well, in the movie, he's definitely a scarecrow.
Yeah.
Definitely, like, 100% a scarecrow.
Yeah.
I didn't get a chance to read this one, because this was actually the only one that is, like, a couple of pages long, which, if you know me, reading is not my forte. I'm kidding. I can read a child's level. I promise you. We just ran out of time. But... that one was super, like, creepy. I think that was the only one that's, like, straight up violent with, like, stabbing or something like that. But it's not bloody in any way, shape, or form. Oh, I guess there's a little bit of blood later on. But the rest of them are just, like, disappear.
Yeah. Like, it's just, like, a weird cutoff point or, like, pull into a weird, like, cutaway thing.
Yeah.
Like, I was not bothered by that because I knew the audience they were trying to reach.
Which is totally, I think it's dual. It's like, it works. It totally works.
There were moments where, like, it felt a little cheesy, like a Disney horror movie, like the Hocus Pocus type stuff. Mm-hmm. But then it recaptured what it was going for. Like, it just drifted a little bit. I did like the actors for this movie. Like, I think that the kids did really well. Like, especially the Latin kid and the main girl. Mm-hmm. Like,
Stella did a really good... Yes. Stella and Ramon did really good jobs.
They did a fantastic job. Like,
how old was he, though?
He had to have been at least 18 to be, like, drafted. But I think if the actor might have been, like, 25.
Yeah, well, it's
and
like...
she looks like she's about a solid, like, 15 years old. Like, she actually looks like the age she was trying to...
I guess they didn't technically...
One of the things that I found most interesting about this, and I'm not sure if they stumbled onto it through research or if it was just coincidence... but the idea of locking somebody in a cellar because of albinism is actually something that takes place with witches in Tanzania.
You know this because of your bad ideas!
No, I know this because one of my friends is from Tanzania, and he talked about how if you're albino, you might get eaten.
What?
Yeah, like
where's Tanzania?
Tanzania is on East Africa, below Ethiopia, and bordering Kenya.
Look at this over here, Mr. Factoid.
But yes, whatever, like, he was saying that...
I know exactly where it is. I'm sorry. I just...
The reason why it's... let's go even deeper. The reason why it's called Tanzania is because it actually merged with the island of Zanzibar, and it was Tanganyika before. And that's why they call it Tanzania now, because the two islands merge. Or the two...
Okay, do you know all of this just because of your friend, or do you know this because you're, like, hyper-intelligent human?
I know that because of Archer.
I love this job. This is fantastic. Okay.
But, like...
albinoism.
Yeah. With albinism, in certain parts of Africa, some parts you'll be revered, some parts you will be eaten or killed or various other things. But he also told me that rich families would take people that were mentally ill, would take people that are, that had various mental illnesses, retardation, things like that, and lock them in basements and not tell anybody.
I knew about this.
They would use witches. Basically, they use that as a sacrifice for spells because the suffering of that person would bring the family wealth because of the sacrifice that they were giving.
Oh, I thought it's just because they didn't want to kill their child.
It's a little bit of both.
Like...
It's more that they these wealthy families thought that would actually work with these spells for like a blood magic type thing.
Weird.
And I'm pretty sure also from Bad Ideas that the black woman in this was based off of Tituba from the Salem witch trials. The main thing that she accomplishes is that she's showing that she's not like an evil witch, that she just has knowledge of the dark magic type things. And that's pretty much what happened in the Salem witch trials with Tituba, because she'd read the Malleus Maleficarum and would tell these kids about like how if you had sex with demons, you could end up like gaining powers. And basically the whole Salem witch trials thing started from that. So like she kind of
history lessons with Human Echo.
And the character that links all this together is a character named Sarah Bellows that was not in these books.
Nope.
But is actually the driving force of the narrative. I don't think that's spoilers because they talk about it in the first 3 minutes of the movie.
Yeah, I don't think it's spoilers either.
It's just a way that they linked everything together that wasn't from the books and worked very well for me. This was a cohesive movie. It never felt like it was being forced just to get these extra stories in there. They took their time. Andre Ovredal did a great job with this one. He was the one that did the autopsy of Jane Doe. As well.
We liked that. That was the one that we liked.
That was the one we liked.
That was the one we liked.
One of my favorites is Troll Hunter. So, he's got, this fantasy thing. He's got a horror thing. It's a perfect pick for this type of movie, which the movie looked great, too. As far as just, it looked like a Guillermo Del Toro thing with the heavy shadows and the colors and everything else. But Overdall took it and did what he wanted to with it as well. So it was just a well-composed movie.
I think the only one that wasn't, very much like this was, you are calling it something different. The Tie Me Toe.
Yeah, the guy whose head falls down a chimney and
the Tie Me
comes alive.
Tie Me.
It's just complete gibberish.
Me Tai Do T Walker. This monster in the movie was the only one that I felt was very off kilter from the rest of the aesthetic.
Yeah, and we talked about that possibly just being we need an exciting driving force to get to the end. And there were things that I liked about it, things that weren't perfect, but it still worked for me. It was not the movie's strongest point though.
Agreed.
The cops' interaction with him was way better than the chase and everything else that happened after.
How did you think of the resolution?
At the end, it's sort of a setup. And I liked that they did that. I liked that they also didn't just magically bring a bunch of things and undo a bunch of things. It gave the movie real consequence. Whenever you have a horror movie that has things reversed or anything like that, it just feels like it was kind of a waste of time. And who knows, maybe that'll happen in sequels. Maybe it'll just be one of those things where it doesn't, where it gets resolved other times. But I felt like they made consequences for this movie that a lot of times they won't do with kids on camera.
Yes, I thank you. That last two words helped me out. Okay. I thought that this was great for a lesson learns for 13-year-olds type of things. At the end, it's even though bad things have happened to you, that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to continue doing bad things. I think that was very intentional.
Yeah.
They definitely nailed that one in, and I think that was very purposeful.
Yeah. And one of the things I liked about that, too, is the idea that she's basically a revenant. A revenant is a spirit that comes back full of rage with the express purpose of avenging themselves or doing harm to others. Mm-hmm. And, this Sarah Bellows character is one of the better definitions of a revenant that I've seen, as far as just taking things too far. And she was tortured, and we can't talk too much more about it. I feel like we're going to have to wrap this up just because we're kind of gushing over it a little bit.
We're there.
I highly recommend this movie, but let's ask the Booze and Booze questions.
We're not on Booze and Booze.
I know, but we're still going to ask those questions.
Did you like it?
I definitely like this movie.
Mm-hmm.
What about you?
I liked it. I was surprised. I think it's a little bit young for us. I don't think that means it's a bad thing, though.
Yeah, if you're going to compare it horror-wise to Midsummer or something like that, you're not going to get that level of feeling just gross.
In the same stage as that.
But it's an artful take on horror that's meant for a younger audience that I think is fun.
Yeah,
and that's exactly what I was hoping it would be. I hoped it would be as fun as these books because I read those books as a kid,
this is nostalgia.
I was never really freaked out from them. Maybe late at night I was thinking about something that came from them, but otherwise it wasn't something where I was oh my god, I have to go talk to the teacher or something.
Right, I remember, where is it? This? I remember this.
Yeah, some of those illustrations are just timeless.
I do remember the guy smoking the pipe, which is interesting that it's not on this.
Yeah, and it's not even part of the story.
Yeah, I wonder if that's like all of them in one bound.
Yeah. Oh, I think that was just the early edition prints, because this one was made like also with the movie in mind. And
right.
But
so did it scare you?
I would say that there were 2 parts that were generally pretty creepy.
I got a couple legit jump scares. I don't know if you saw that. Which
I was leading a little bit more, but like the thing is, the jump scares weren't that plentiful either. There were a couple that you saw coming,
maybe like 3 or 4.
Yeah, like it's what you expect from a horror movie,
but
it wasn't excessive. It wasn't bad. I generally just enjoyed that. I thought that there was some tension and some like freaky parts, especially with the dream. And I'm grateful that they actually were able to do that, having the shackles of having a PG-13 rating and a kids movie. And sometimes that rating will make you be more creative to get to try to show something than if you just have full license to throw intestines at the screen.
Yes, I definitely agree with that. I thought that this had major creep value. In there was just a couple of scenes in particular that might come in my dreams tonight. I don't know. I have a very strange...
You have more sleep anxiety than I do.
Yeah, I have a bad subconscious. Rewatchability.
I would say when it comes out on the streaming service, I'll probably check it out one more time. I don't think it's a movie that I'm going to be like, all right, every year on Halloween, we're going to watch this.
I did think it was interesting that they didn't release it closer to Halloween, because we had a very autumn feel. Right now, it's still very summery feeling.
It's very sticky. It's not great. Like, football hasn't even started yet. This is a fall movie. Like, what?
Fall equals football.
I mean, that's exactly what it is.
No.
It starts next week.
Doesn't start with pumpkin spice. Actually, I don't
PSL
know. Really?
Yeah.
I feel like that's too early.
It's holiday creep. Holiday creep keeps getting more and more.
I saw Halloween stuff at King Soopers. What are you doing, King Soopers?
I went this weekend and looked at Halloween stuff with some friends.
Halloween!
Spirit stores are back.
Are they really already?
Yep.
Oh, hell yeah! Anyways, okay, rewatchability. I would probably watch this on my couch during Halloween season with a couple of friends. I don't see a problem with that. Or have it on in the background at a Halloween party. I could see, because it has kind of that, like...
And you're not going to have any awkward, like... Well, they're doing bad things on the screen that I don't really want to have a party to. Like,
right,
you don't have
exactly.
You don't have anything that goes, like, full-on, like, R-rated. You just got some pretty cool stuff.
Yeah. Anyways, let us know what you think. Have you seen these? Do you remember these from our childhood? Tell us what you think about this movie. Did you think it creeped you out? Were you like, this is child's play? Or did you really like it? Let us know what you want us to do for the next one. This is not particularly a booze and booze. I think this is just a review.
It's a kids movie, and we were also having trouble like coming up with a drink for this one. Like we could have, but it was a lot of...
I've done so many black vodka drinks that my brain like can't do it anymore.
Yeah, we gotta find some new things. We just decided to do this as a review, but let us know what you guys think. If you enjoyed this, hit that like button, hit the sub button, and hit that Patreon link. $2, $5, $10 a month gets you lots of pins, lots of cool stuff. We will talk to you guys next week with more reviews, more Mountain Dew wine, whatever ends up coming out on here. Talk to you later.
Bye!